So back at it after 1 year, huh?
Back at it. Was this like episode 18?
18. I think we were at 17 before the hiatus.
This is episode 19.
You know what? Don't get me lying. I tried to look at it today, and I was like, it was all organized, all weird on YouTube, so I didn't have a chance to really get into it. But I'm sure we could figure it out if we wanted to. Yeah. But I guess one thing I wanted to just tell you about real quick is addressing the rumors. I've heard all these rumors because everything I get these days is, what happened to the podcast? What happened to the podcast? I heard this, I heard that. So let's just run through some of these.
Okay.
And you tell me what's factual and what's not, all right? Okay. I heard you left America to move to Canada.
That is false, sir.
Let me tell you why I almost believe that one, because you and your buddy Ari have become pretty close, and everybody knows he's from Canada. So I was just kind of like,
Ari and I are tight, but I am a red, white, and blue-blooded American through and through. I would never leave my country unless we elected Obama again, but that's another story.
Oh my God! All right,
just kidding. Calm down.
All right, you just got to shut down on the first one back. Jesus Christ!
YouTube's gonna ban us now.
All right, let me see. What's another one? But I heard that you got a part in the new Top Gun movie.
That part is true.
I mean, cameo. What, are you actually in the jets? What are we doing here?
So, you know the character Merlin in the first one.
Merlin, Jesus Christ, you went all the way back.
So Merlin, he was the one that he was the navigator for the head pilot. I can't forget that guy's name, but he was the one that was. I'm like the Merlin in the new one.
Okay, well there you go.
I'm a navigator in the F-18.
Pretty sure that's a spoiler alert. So get your tickets for Top Gun.
So if you want to see me, Top Gun is out this summer. Look forward to buy your tickets. I think you guys have a good time.
What's another one? A funny one that I heard was.
Actually, I'll tell you one I heard about you.
Oh, here we go. What is it?
I heard you went on like a 7-year tour of Tibet to go find yourself.
7 years was more like 7 days. It's a little bit too cold out there for me, man. There was no Wi-Fi, not a lot to do. Unless you like snow. So, yeah, that didn't work out too good.
There's snow in Tibet?
I mean,
I think it's a big mountain, right?
Yeah, it's a
country.
Cool. Yeah, Mount Everest.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, not sure where it's at.
I hung out over there, so it's no big deal. Did I climb it? I mean, that's neither here nor there, you know. But I spent some time over there, so no biggie. Let me see. What's another one I heard about you? I heard you left Henzo's and you started your own underground fight club.
So first of all, I'm not going to talk about the second part.
What's the first rule? You can't talk about it. All right. We've already said too much.
Second of all, sir, you never leave Henzo's. Once you're Henzo, you're always Henzo.
For life.
Hence the.
Oh, look at that!
That's permanent, man. I'm permanently Henzo, brother.
Not like my pretend tattoos I had for Halloween, but they were.
Yours are all hidden.
Yeah.
They're all in those places we don't talk about.
They're no places. So, but no, man, I'm glad we're back, and a little bit different production. All jokes aside, guys, we just kind of took a hiatus. We had a thing with our producer and the space, and we were just kind of trying to, just find a new spot, new home. And at the end of the day, we realized, hell, if we keep waiting for the right space, we'll never get back on here. So I'm glad you pushed us to get back on here, man, because it seems like people enjoy listening to our bullshit. So
somebody does. They keep. I think for the last year, I've heard. I don't know how many times. All four
subscribers, yeah.
Yeah, all 4 guys keep hitting us up over and over again. And but it's. I'm glad we're back. I've always had. This was always a lot of fun, and mostly we did it for fun, and it was just nice that some people kind of jumped along for the ride and enjoy listening to us cut up and talk shit about jiu-jitsu. So that's good. I'm glad. This is exciting.
Yeah, and I think that caught me off guard the most was just kind of the support. Like I had people coming up to open mats. Hey, we never met before. My name's such and such. I listened to your podcast, and it was just kind of cool. Like where people were responding to us and engaging with us almost like they knew us, like on a personal level. And I think it was like, it's like you said, it was just something fun to do, just talk shit with your boy, give us an excuse to, get out of the house or whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like, I don't know, people just really seemed to connect, and all the support was just awesome. And the encouragement that people wanted us to come back. And it was just, I don't know, man, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting the people actually want us, So
let's for real. Let's talk about the last year, like just some stuff that's gone on for you, because it has been. It's literally. I was looking back, like when we start creating memes again, like letting everybody know what's about to happen. So what's like anything new in your life? Anything come up this last year where things have changed for you?
The biggest thing, not so much me personally, but just still training, still grinding every day. The biggest difference, I guess, the one key thing that's changed with over the last year is that I'm a full-time staff member and one of the head instructors here at Renzo Gracie HQ. That was pretty unique the way that whole thing went down. Not planned. Left my job. Just wasn't working. Reached out to Professor Brian and just hey, what's going on with the new location, and just so happened somebody else on staff was getting ready to move, and he was like, hey man, let's slide you in. And
that's what she said.
Hey-o. By the time I realized, like, now all of a sudden I'm a full-time staff member at Renzo's, and that whole saying about find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, man, it couldn't be truer, because it's been such an awesome transition to be at the gym, to be paid to do something I absolutely love to do. And then, like, if that wasn't good enough, a few months later we had another transition, and then my wife got to slide right in, and she became part of the Renzo family staff. So now it's like the biggest change in our lives is that we're full-time staff members at Renzo's. And so we just, we get to spend all of our time up here and help teach with the kids and the adults. And that was one of the most notable things of last year that was real impactful to us, and just kind of changed a lot, almost everything in our lives, the way, just the dynamics of our family and just our schedules, just the way things opened up for us. And that's been the biggest thing so far last year, was just getting this opportunity to be part of the Renzo staff.
Yeah, I know you guys had a big impact here at the academy, and the students they really gravitate towards you, and of course you're an awesome instructor. Guys who've been here before, they see how good of an instructor you are and how enjoyable it is. So it's been cool. It's been great for me having you here all the time.
I know. Remember, so funny enough, we talked about that recently, where we were talking about how often do we get to train together.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people just assume that because we're here, we're besties, that we're always like at the gym, and it's not like that. It's just we always seem to be missing each other in classes and stuff. But yeah, man, I'm glad that we're here and going to be part of a better team, and so finally now like things are becoming a bit more consistent with our routines, where we're spending more time on the mats together. So that's always a good thing.
It's been cool.
What's been going on with you?
For me, I mean, you were kind of at the beginning of the start of the Invictus LEO Jiu Jitsu Collective.
That was kind of my idea, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay, so we're gonna move ahead. We're gonna plow forward from that one. But yeah, that's kind of taken off. I had no idea that I had zero idea that was going to happen the way it was going to happen, and it's turned into a pretty big movement with police officers around the country. And like we talked about Ari up in Canada. Those of Submissions 101 Ari. Us for you old school guys, I guess. But anyway, he's a black belt in Canada and a police officer up in Victoria, British Columbia. Yes, you're gonna have to Google that like I did, because I wasn't sure what part of Canada that was on. It's near Seattle. I'll just save you the suspense. But anyway, that's taken off, and so that's taken up a lot of my time. And then my actual paying job has gotten busy because I got promoted and to an administrative position. So now that's a whole new world for me.
Yeah,
and I've been taking that on, and just it's just been one of those years where a lot of things are happening, and just kind of rolling with the punches. And here we are, 2020, and future's bright. We gotta see what's coming up.
The whole Invictus thing, it's fascinating to me because I see a lot of the conversations online, and the movement is basically BJJ, make it mandatory. And I still to this day don't understand, because I'm not in law enforcement. I know some because of you and through others, but I don't understand fully, like, what is the resistance to getting law enforcement more involved in jiu-jitsu?
That's a good question. And if you watch, that's something we debate a lot. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
And there's two avenues that you can approach that on. One avenue is going to be from the top side, from the administrators, from the chiefs, the people who are in those positions, they're looking at it from a liability perspective, and they don't totally understand jiu-jitsu, so and it's also a lack of knowledge and understanding what jiu-jitsu is and how effective it is for law enforcement. They're used to the old school stuff where it was batons and we still have the pressure points, man. Unfortunately that's still taught in a lot of places. Things like that old school, like Aikido, like trying to control someone with just their wrist. I mean, unless you're Steven Seagal, give it up. I'm telling you right now, that ain't gonna happen. But yeah, that old school stuff. So that's what they're used to. And so when they see chokes and things like that, they freak out. They don't want to see anybody choked, and their first thought of is someone's going to be killed. And we know, if you train jiu-jitsu, you know when you apply choke properly, unless you hold it for an extended period of time, nothing happens. They wake up safe. They're
in handcuffs. Everyone goes home safe.
Everybody goes home safe. The guy in handcuffs doesn't even know how he got there, and everybody is better for it at the end of the day. But that's changing a little bit. Other departments are starting to allow it again, and it's growing with the knowledge of jiu-jitsu. But yeah, that would be the top side. The bottom side, we just Invictus did an not extensive, but about 11-month study on questioning people and asking for input from officers from all over the country and Canada. I keep forgetting to include Canada. Canada's part of it. So sorry, Canada. But it's kind of an extensive study where they kind of delved into it, and it's very interesting. It's kind of some of the stuff you would suspect. It takes too long to get good. Is their thought process. Money. They don't have the money because their money's going other places. Time. They don't want it to interfere with family time or with whatever you want to put in there as far as time. Whatever their priorities are in time. Fear of injury. Things of that nature seem to come up a lot, which, in my opinion, were not valid excuses. The only one I could give some validity to would be family. But even still, when you take on the role of being a police officer, I like to tell people, whether you knew it or not, you took on a warrior's profession. So now you've got to act like a warrior, and you have to train your mind and your body for engaging in what we call the ultimate fight on the street when someone's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
So hopefully that never happens. And for the majority of law enforcement, they'll probably never be in a situation where they're engaged in the ultimate fight, probably. But a good chunk will. And you're still going to physically be engaging with people who resist you either passively or actively through punches, through whatever means they choose to use. And so we're trying to get officers to understand, hey, jiu-jitsu is basically tailor-made for police officers. Like, it's literally controlling someone's body and getting them to submit to you. Which, when you're trying to handcuff somebody, what are you trying to do?
You're trying to control them, submit them, yeah.
And get them to submit to you, right? So... that's kind of what it is. And there's ego also is always an issue. Of course, it's hard to ask that on a study, because if someone with ego is not going to admit, it's my ego that's preventing me from coming in, they're going to come up with some other excuse, right?
Yeah.
Another big one was never needed it before. Why do I need it now?
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's like the old condom rule,
it's worked so far.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so, but yeah, that's kind of what we found. And so we're learning, and I think pushing the information out and getting the support from around the country, including like government agencies like here in Texas and Washington, Nevada, those law enforcement organizations or state organizations are actually pushing it as well. So it's getting out. Good things are happening, and it's going to be an exciting year. We have several seminars and mini seminars and lots of stuff coming up.
That's good, man. Going back to the whole last year thing, one thing that was pretty awesome that we just got to be a part of in December was, 3 of our very own got promoted to black belts.
Yes.
JT, Michael Campo, and Micah Marino. And, I got to thinking about that, and I started thinking about, we're coming up on two years as black belts now. And, standing there, just the whole academy and just listening to their speeches and everything, and it just kind of got me thinking about, man, thinking back to my experience almost 2 years ago now when I got my black belt, and I was curious, like, do you remember like what that day was like for you?
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember it very well. I remember I was late, but I didn't think I was late. Wait, put your phone on silent there.
Yeah,
Genius.
sorry.
That's not the first time that's ever happened.
Well, it's not going to be the last. Let me do it now.
But I remember I was late, and I didn't realize I was late. But I was on my way up here with my little crew at the time. And, we got here a little late, but I thought I was doing fine because I didn't think it was going to start for whatever. But you were out there videotaping me, calling me out for being late. Way to be late to your own black belt promotion. And I was like, what do you mean? We've got like 15 minutes, right? Like, no. I was like, all right. So I thought I had time. But anyway, I was late, but then the anticipation of when we're going to actually do it.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, there was a lot of guys here that wanted to wreck me. It was like Alan Shabaro, Joey Zinthi. So Ruben Arredondo from Corpus. There was a lot of black belts here that they wanted to break in my new black belt.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty incredible. You were here. It was a pretty incredible moment for me. I remember I had things I wanted to talk about, but when I went up there to talk, like my mind just turned into mush, and it was so hard to organize my thoughts. And I don't even remember everything I said. I think I was just babbling mostly, but it was pretty overwhelming. And I tell you, one of the most distinct things I remember is after all that, it was time to we were doing open mat.
Yeah.
And I remember Alan Shabaro, and anybody who knows who Alan Shabaro is, how do I describe him? He's about 6'2".
Doesn't miss a lot of meals.
240.
Or workouts.
Probably about 240, 230 maybe. Just jacked to the gills. A ridiculously good black belt. A former Green Beret A-team special operator. His motor runs on one fucking RPM, and that's all the way maxed when he's rolling. And he could have done me so much worse. He was actually nice, but man, it was about 15 minutes of just getting thrashed and really, I felt like a white belt all over again.
Yeah.
Rolling with him, and then I started going down the line, and by the end of that, did we even roll? Yeah, we must have rolled.
We ended in our classic lockdown.
We ended in the lockdown.
The lockdown
So that's.
But I think at that point, I recognized that you had just gone through some heavy hitters, man, and I was like, all right, let's get to your honey spot here, and let's move our hands around a little bit and make it look like we're actually rolling. Because man, I remember watching you roll with some of those guys, and I was like,
I can't even remember. It was Brian put it on me too. But, so how about what do you remember about your? Because you were not actually at this academy.
Yeah, so I didn't receive my belt here, but like they said, I got here as quick as I could, and it was a little weird because I knew about a month in advance, and I always kind of, looking back, always wonder, is it better to know or not know? My mind, can get away from me, and I start to overthink things, but it was weird because you're supposed to be humble in jiu-jitsu. You're not supposed to be thinking about, oh my God, I'm gonna get my black belt someday, and this, that, and the other. We're always taught humility, and so. But there wasn't, when I decided as a blue belt that one day I wanted to get my black belt, I remember realizing that what's it going to be like on that day? Like, who's going to be there? What am I going to say? And one of the things that I always joked about was that it's my understanding that from the moment a woman or a girl can put a thought together, she's already thinking about the big day when she gets married and her wedding and planning it. And I think that was kind of like, the way I looked at it was I constantly throughout the years would think about it like that, like who's going to be there? What am I going to say? Where am I going to be at? And knowing about a month in advance, I was prepared in that, me, I wrote a speech and everything and had all my thoughts together. And, I had
everything. Anal over here.
Yeah, I had it all worked out in my mind. And
hold on one second. We can't even teach a class if he doesn't almost write it all out to from minute one warm up to what he's gonna say at the end of the class. But,
well, it's one of those things where it's one of those things where just a victim of my environment. I spent 6 years in a previous place where one of the things that I did pick up was just kind of always doing your best to be prepared, having your notes, and kind of having a good idea of what you wanted to teach, and from the warm up to how we would transition right into the technique of the day or whatever. And so and plus I spent all my 20s at Show Oil as an analyst, so my job was to be analytical. So it's just like I can't turn my mind off sometimes. But I remember that day because I had plenty of time to be prepared for it. Everyone that I wanted to be there was there. I know you were there, and it's just it was such a cool thing. And now that we're coming up on 2 years, it's just like to see JT and Michael and Micah get their black belts. It was like surreal. Like, man, these guys are being promoted to their black belts. It's almost like they say you're just at the beginning now, even though you're getting that black belt. And then here we are coming up on our 2 years. And so it was just really cool, like, to see that and see that then just that love for jiu-jitsu and the enthusiasm that they had, and just seeing everybody that was part of their special day. And it just kind of like brought back a lot of cool memories. And, me thinking about when I got my black belt and when you got your black belt. And so it was
still pretty sour
cool
about that, because somehow, some way, you managed to squirm your way 6 months ahead of me in getting your black belt. I still understand how this happened, because I've been ahead of you. My entire jiu-jitsu journey, I was ahead of you on belt, stripes, everything. And then suddenly,
hold on,
you jumped me. You like took I don't know how that happened.
So the only thing I can think of to justify that
I think I have an answer, but I won't say it on the podcast.
Right? Well, the only thing I can say,
count for you. I'm gonna be honest, that doesn't count for you, but
the only thing I can say is that I had the opportunity where I was able to train consistently for about. So that's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe I was just getting more mat time than you were. I don't know what the schedule was like here, but I know that where I was, like, we were doing 3 a days, or I was doing 3 a days, and just trying to constantly be on the mats. That's the only thing I can think of, because.
Well, I'm just a little bitter about it. I'm not gonna be honest with you. I'm a little bitter, because if you get that, you're gonna get that strike before me, and you're always gonna hold over my head. So I'm gonna line up to the left of you.
Dude, I've never said, "Hey, line up over here."
Yeah, okay. We'll see what happens when I line up to the right of you. We'll see how well your OCD can handle that. Because you're gonna start shaking.
No. I've always had this philosophy on belts, like, especially if you're at the same level, is if we're both at the same level, whoever gets that ass whoop that night gets to line up ahead of that person. Like, that's the way I've always looked at it, because it was almost like a motivator for me, where I don't want this dude to line up to my right, so I better give it everything I got, because we're the same belt level. And you get me, cool, man. You line up over here, I get you. And it was never like, that's like, since we're talking about, we always talk about unofficial rules in jiu-jitsu, unwritten rules. That wasn't anything I said. It was just something that, in my mind, it just helped to motivate me to want to push a little bit harder, and just go a little bit, harder with whoever I was training with. If I knew we were like the same belt. And also what it was one of our black belts at the time. Well, he was a brown belt at the time when I got my purple. And I remember my buddy Kang, he said, when I was already a purple belt, and we had like this huge promotion where like about 5-6 people got their purples. And, it was a great day. I'm excited for everybody. And he pushed me to the side, and he was like, hey, you better make sure that these other purple belts know who the top purple belt was. So he kind of inceptioned that in my head, and he put that in me, like, oh shit, like, I didn't know I was representing like the purple belts, like, I just thought it was all cool that we all had our purple belts.
That's a good question, because one thing that I can't remember who said it, but when they talked about representing your belt, and especially once you get a black belt, you have to defend that belt. And
Professor Brian, I heard him give a great speech about that before I got my black belt. Actually,
so once you put since you're talking about let everybody know who's the best purple belt in this gym, now that you have your black belt, and like, we do open mats, and I travel to other gyms, and so do you sometimes, and you're training with all kinds of different people. How do you feel about that concept of defending your belt and representing it when you're on the mat? Just training, like, are we talking about? Just training on the mat and representing your belt, and however you want to look at that.
Well, let me back up a little bit, because that's a great question. And when I was a blue belt, and I was asking around about what's a black belt, like, what does it take to become a black belt? You ask 10 black belts that question, you're gonna get 10 different answers. But the cleanest answer that helped to put me on a path was, I was told a black belt should be 3 things. 1, obviously, first and foremost, going back to what you said, you should represent your skill set. In other words, if you're a black belt, you better be of that skill set. 2 is you should be a good instructor. And 3, you should be a good ambassador to jiu-jitsu. In other words, what are you doing to help grow jiu-jitsu? And so those were the cleanest answers I had as a blue belt, that it seemed obtainable. Okay, now I have an idea of what this person's perception of a black belt is, and I can kind of follow these guidelines, because everybody else it was like everybody just had a different opinion on what a black belt should be. And so going back to this whole skill set thing, sometimes it's hard because, you come in here and, we're not getting any younger, and sometimes it's kind of like, okay.
I'm in the gym every morning.
But sometimes, you do get caught up in this whole mess of like, man, I have to defend my belt, because that's one thing that Professor Brian always talked about is, he's not saying to destroy people, but at the same time, it goes back to what I first learned is represent your belt properly. There's a lot of schools, I think, that are handing out belts, especially these days, because things have become a little bit too PC or a little bit too business. And I think that they think they have to retain students by giving out black belts. And we've said it from day one. We'll keep saying it. The truth is always on the mats. Oh, yeah. You can wear whatever the hell the belt you want, but when we get out there and that we slap hands, we'll know real quick what's what.
Yeah.
So for me, I have my ups and downs, just like it's supposed to be. I always say jiu-jitsu is the greatest thing in the world because it always balances out the universe. There's days where you're the nail, days where you're the hammer, and I find myself these days where I'm training a lot smarter. For the first time ever that I can remember, I'm actually listening to my body a lot more.
Except for last night.
Except for last night. Last night, though, and I'll tell you why, and I'll blame Professor Keith Owens on this one.
Oh,
he had shout out to Professor Keith Owens. He had a really great post a few weeks ago about a guy that came in, white belt, fresh off the street, young Thundercat, former everything. And this guy was just giving people fits because, he just was a monster and a beast and athletic. And of course, we've got a guy here like that now too. And I've rolled with him a few times, and he's a tough roll white belt. Great wrestling background, and you get in a bad position with this guy, and it's gonna be a long day for you. And so I rolled with him a few times, and then I felt like, all right, let me not roll with this. I don't need to roll with this guy every night. I'm not saying I was avoiding him, but it was more like I was more selective about my rolling. And then I read a post with Professor Keith Owens, and he was talking about how that's the guy that you want to get around in with every single time, because that's the guy that's going to help push you. And so last night, I actually rolled with them twice. And man, it was a long night, especially because it was the last 2 rounds of we've been training for an hour and a half last night.
We did 30 minutes of technique, Q&A, and then we hit that hour plus of rolling. Yeah,
and I got him on the last 2 rolls, and so, I'm not embarrassed to say that, man, I felt like a complete nail last night. But Professor Keith Owens was very inspiring in his post, to where he said you should seek out those people. Those are the people that are going to make you better. And I thanked him profusely last night, because it was just like, man, I was so glad that, he put it on me real good, and it just kind of, gets you to that breaking point. But then, those are the times where you have to really focus on your technique, and, you go into survival mode and realize that, hey, if this was really happening out in the street, how am I going to be safe here? And there was a lot of things in those 2 roles that I took away from training with him last night. And, it was good, man, and it's not always going to be pretty, but, as long as you can go home at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And so I told you in the past where I'm the idiot that would get super excited about the new guy or the new visitor, oh, I got to go check that dude out. Oh, he's a purple belt. Oh, he's a brown belt like me, or, oh, he's a black belt, and I would be that guy that would be super excited about going to roll with that person, because I always wanted to see kind of, all right, where am I at in comparisons to everybody else? But now, I'm at a point now where it's like, I don't find myself needing to do that. Now it's more selective in making sure that I'm trying to get a lot of rounds with the right people to make sure that I'm getting what I need out of my training and I'm not getting injured. I'm not getting all beat up and having to take time off. So I think at this point, my focus is more on longevity. Staying safe, still continuing to push hard, but at the same time, I'm finally at a point now where I feel like I don't have anything to prove. I'm just like, it is what it is. You get me, good. We'll fight again tomorrow, and maybe tomorrow I'll get you. And if I don't, I'll keep coming.
Yeah. No, Professor Owen is pretty. By the way, shout out to Professor Owen. He's a good dude. He's someone that's become a friend of mine, and I really appreciate his friendship. He's checked on me sometimes, and he's a good dude. But he definitely talks about what would be not dodging roles, I guess, but taking on those difficult roles. Yeah. And not dodging them. But it's kind of a little bit. I don't think it's in contrast, but it's a different. There's a little bit of a thought process in that, because I remember Chris Howder, when he was here, he gave a speech about once you get to a certain level and a certain age, and a certain, like if you're a black belt, you're a little older, you get the privilege of, hey, that young 20-year-old purple belt, you've got 50 pounds on you. You get to say, I'm not going to roll with you right now if you don't feel up to it, because you've only got so many rolls in your body left. And I don't know how I feel about that still. I think for sure, when I'm feeling wore out, like a guy who's just much, much bigger than me, if I roll with them, I'll take it as okay, let's survive. Let's just do survival. Let's just do defense, protection, and survival. And if we happen to get in a good position, great. If not, just think about survival, Yeah. And it makes you tougher and stronger. And I guess you can, but you got to listen to your body too. Like if your body's wore out, there's no point injuring it just to prove a point or whatever. It might not even prove a point, but just I think it's important to listen to your body. The older we get, I think the more we do learn to listen to our bodies. I know I went through a bout of tendonitis this year, which I'd never had happen ever in my life. And for like a good 4 or 5 months, man, rolling for me it hurt. Yeah. I couldn't move. I was stiff. I felt like my jiu-jitsu was just trash. Like it was terrible. And then I thought, man, what's happening to me? It was like making me doubt myself. Yeah. And then suddenly I started coming out of it and feeling better. And then like my jiu-jitsu came back, and then now I'm super comfortable and I feel really good again. And like I can actually roll and train. The older you get, the more those things start to happen. And I think the wear and tear on your body, for sure. As you get older, you have to listen to it. There's good stuff out now, like the CBD oil. There's lots of good supplements out there. I've been taking, and people keep asking me because I post about it, the Jocko supplements from Origin. Yeah. Origin Labs, like those really work for me. They have the joint warfare and then the fish oil. Like since I started taking those, I can feel a significant difference in my body and how it feels. So there's good stuff out there. And as you get older, you're just going to have to be a little more conscious of your body. And when you're younger too, like if you count on everything when you're younger, if you count on your athleticism all the time, that's going to do two things that are going to mess you up, in my opinion. One, that's going to you're not going to learn good technique. And I think that was one of the things that happened to me when I first started. Is I've always been a relatively athletic guy, and so like for me, grappling it kind of felt natural, but I didn't learn a lot of the technique real specific. I would just get general ideas on the technique and just use kind of my athleticism to do a lot of stuff. And it really it hurt me later, because then I was behind on technique. When you get to a certain level, like say bluish, blue, then everybody's technique is, your athleticism stops really being effective if you haven't learned good technique to go with it. So that hurt me a lot. And plus, when you're rolling hard, if you're rolling like that level or using your athleticism all the time, it also wears your body out quicker.
Yeah, man, I agree. Like I think one of the not hardest conversations, but one of the conversations that I find myself having with these lower belts a lot of times is trying to get them to understand that you're going to get away with that right now because you're a white belt or you're a blue belt. But there's going to come a time where if you're both the same athletic-wise, strength, the guy with the better technique is going to get you. And it's a weird thing because jiu-jitsu sometimes becomes like parenting. I feel like I didn't get it when my mom and my dad were in my ass about certain things, but I understand it now that I'm older, now that that I have a family, that they just wanted the best for me and they didn't want to see me go through those hardships. I get it now. And sometimes when you're talking to these young Thundercats out here, it's like you can tell that you're giving them advice because you don't want them to go through the same struggles you went through, but you can also look right at them and be like, you're not listening to shit I'm saying, are you? You're going to do this the hard way. You're going to go out of your way to just be a meathead and get hurt or hurt somebody else. And it's just like, I get it now. Like, it's almost like full circle coming back where it's like, and then those moments make me feel, oh, like, man, I'm trying to help you, you know, like just listen to what I'm trying to tell you so you don't have to go through the same things that we did. But it's like, some people just have to go it the hard way, man.
It seems like that's a good transition into our Dear White Belt segment.
Oh my God.
So since we're talking about giving advice to these young Thundercats that are coming in and wanting to learn the gentle art, what or not so gentle art?
So I got one for you, Dear White Belt. If we're at a tournament and a higher belt, brown belt, let's be very specific in this case, is coaching one of the students, don't come into the coaching area and start overcoaching that brown belt if you're a white belt and just happen to be at a tournament that just happens to be the first tournament you've ever been to in your life. You're probably not qualified to be coaching, let alone overcoaching an established brown belt that was trying to do their duties as a coach. We talked about this a little bit because you were there, and to just kind of give you guys some context, we had an issue. We had a situation recently where we had a white belt come on the mats and start overcoaching one of the brown belts, and very politely, I kind of reached up to him and nudged him and said, "Hey, hey buddy," I was like, let the coaches coach. And this white belt looks down at me because I was kind of in a seated position and just kind of dismisses me and continues to coach. And I was just kind of like, it's like one of those moments where you're like, wait, what the hell's going on here? Like, is this the Twilight Zone? Because I explained it to him in a very polite way, and he just kind of kept on. So that happened. I was just like, okay. So I gave him another nudge, asked him again, hey, let the coaches coach, buddy. A few minutes later, we were asked all to get down because we were all standing, and I guess people couldn't see. The dude just stands there. We all followed directions. We all got down. And then I think at this point, you even made a comment to him, right?
Yeah, so because we had been saying, hey, man, just because we were coaching, we're kind of in the middle of the mat.
Yeah.
It seems like a big mat split up in 4 ways at another gym locally. And we've been told, hey, y'all need to... So all the black belts and brown belts got down.
Yeah.
Because we were all there coaching all day anyway. So we all got down on our knees and so we could coach so other people could see, except for this white belt. And I remember looking.
And by the way, guys, he's in full gi in a white belt. We're not assuming anything at this point. This guy is a white belt. He's competing.
It's a tournament for
first time competitors, basically.
This is his first tournament to compete in too, apparently. So I just looked at him and said, hey man, you need to get low so other people can see. And he just kind of looked down at me, and then looked away, like I don't know what, like I didn't exist, or like maybe he heard something but didn't hear. I don't know. It was really bizarre. And then I said it to him a second time, and I don't remember what his response was, but he kind of had an arrogant look on his face, and then he kind of got low for a little bit. But then 2 minutes, 30 seconds later, he's standing back up. And I think that's when you were like, wait a minute. Yeah. And first of all, that day was not a good day for me to have a confrontation with somebody because I could have gone either way. And we're at another gym. So I was like, I'm going to step over here and let my bestie Ronnie take care of things. Sometimes
old school Madden forces need to come out and play a little bit. Because at this point, it was just weird to me because I asked them again. I asked them, and again, I wasn't looking for confrontation. In fact, I tried to diffuse it, and I tried to redirect him. And I asked him, I said, hey, do you have a match today? And he said, yes. I was like, what mat are you on? He said, that one. I said, okay. I said, why don't you go over to your mat, get yourself ready for your match. I said, we'll take care of the coaching. Let us do our job. Let us coach. And that's when it kind of escalated a bit.
Got really weird.
And he goes, "Don't assume anything. Don't assume anything." And I was like, and when he said it, there was like, I couldn't even process it because I was like, man, never in my wildest dream as a white belt would I have even dared to like be rude to like a higher belt, you know, even a blue or a purple at the time, you know, when I was a white belt, like you just didn't do that. And here was this white belt telling me not to assume anything. And as another black belt pointed out to me, it was kind of funny when it was like, there's nothing to assume. You're wearing it on your waist. You're a white belt. Like, there's nothing to be assumed here. I'm simply telling you, hey, man, let the coaches coach. There's no need for you to be over here in this section as a white belt coaching another white belt when already there was a qualified brown belt that was doing it. And then the rest of us came in. So now you had a brown belt and 3 black belts trying to help out that student, but you're steadily over talking everybody.
You know, he wasn't the only one to do that because I was coaching someone from one of our gyms, and I wasn't familiar with who it was, but I just saw the Hindu Gracie patch, so I'm like, I'm going to help out. And then all of a sudden, this white belt is next to me, over coaching me, over the top of me. And because I didn't know who the guy was, I just kind of looked at him, and I didn't know who the guy competing was. And I just, all right, fine, you got this. I'm going to walk away. But I have literally, that's never happened. I've never even thought, if I saw an upper belt coaching somebody, of stepping in front of them to coach over them or whatever that was. So maybe the thing is that was because it was all first timers. But I don't know. Like, even when I was starting as a white belt, I would have never even ever thought of that ever.
Yeah, like I said, it was a very odd situation. I mean, I've been in jiu-jitsu over 12 years now, and I don't think I've ever had an incident where a white belt was just that, I don't know if the right word is combative, but he just seemed like he was just very kind of like, the guy had a lot of ego, and it's just, it's interesting to me because we always say that jiu-jitsu is a douchebag filter, and it's kind of like, if this is this guy's attitude, he's going to get that ego beat out of him or he's going to quit because with that kind of attitude, those aren't the guys that do this long term. No. You know, they don't, you know, you're a know-it-all, you got the ego, you know, nobody can tell you anything, you're not coachable, you're not going to be around long. And so, so the long and the short of it is, dear white belts, let the coaches coach, especially if it's your first tournament ever and you've got a white belt around your hip. Just for fun, we've been there once or twice, not our first rodeo. Go ahead and let us coach instead of screaming over us like you have no damn sense. And then don't get combative about it when we're trying to help you.
That was the weird part. I felt like he almost like bowed up a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And first of all, he wasn't even the biggest guy to begin with. And second of all, it was like, are you bowing up? Like, it was just so bizarre. I've never.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this millennial generation, man.
It must be, man.
It must be the millennial thing, and oof.
I bet you that guy could probably berimbolo his ass up, but couldn't block a punch to save his life. You know, it just strikes me.
He could berimbolo, but he couldn't prevent his guard from getting past.
Yeah,
he couldn't pass the guard for saving his life.
Yeah, he didn't do that well that day either, if I remember. So
I didn't watch. I remember I was going to. Anyway. So I guess anyway. We'll move on from that subject because I think we planned on being a little more generic about it, but I guess it kind of, hey, it's the truth. The truth is the truth. It's okay to let the truth out, man. So
it is what it is.
Anyway, so I guess that's I think that kind of concludes our first
return podcast
back after a
1 year hiatus.
It's almost been 1 year exact, bro.
Yeah, I was looking at it today.
In fact, I think I got a memory. My Facebook popped up from something like it, and it was like, oh my god, it's been almost exactly 1 year since our last podcast.
Yeah.
So,
well, now it's just a matter of just staying consistent and putting more content out there, and looking for feedback from everybody, and
from the Hinzo Gracie Studios.
Yeah, there you go.
Headquarters. This is a more, I think, apropos background because it's actually a jiu-jitsu background.
Yeah.
So I'm not complaining about the last one because that was just offered to us. So, I mean, it was nice, but it's kind of, I think this works a little better.
Yeah. And now time to go train.
Those kiddos.
No, we got to get over to Fernando.
Oh, we're going to, we got the Grove tonight.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that concludes episode 18, I think. Pretty sure it's episode 18.
I have to take a look.
And this will be up on YouTube first, and then we'll get the code and get it upload to the other platforms. iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and I think that was it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. I know you guys were hitting us up about it. And y'all thought we had already recorded it earlier this week. No, we were just putting information out. Now it's recorded, and let us, if you see us, let us know what you thought. Anything y'all want to think about or talk about, hit us up. Tell us in person, and we'll kindly consider it. If you're a white belt, just don't do it. Just stay quiet.
Delete your account, please.
Maybe. In fact, don't even follow us. Yeah. You're not ready yet. But colored belts, we'd like to hear from you. So,
absolutely.
Just kidding, white belts. All right, guys. You got anything else? You got anything closing out?
No, that's it, man. I'm glad we're back.
Quick shout out to Joe.
Oh, yes. Quick shout out to Joe, Professor Joe Murphy. He is actually competing tonight at tonight's Friday. And he'll be on Flow Grappling competing at Fight to Win.
Yeah,
Phoenix. Also,
he's been working us all last month getting ready for this fight.
And then also shout out to his wife Lauren Murphy. So she's going to be fighting in the UFC on February 8th. So best of luck to both of them, and we'll get on Flow Grappling here in a little bit and support Professor Joe.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, that's it. So we'll see you. We should be doing another one next week. It'll be episode 19, and I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure something will come up.